we are constrained to express our utter disgust and disappointment in our colleagues' resort to motor park approach to a mere suspension aimed at providing them with the opportunity to clear themselves of certain allegations leveled against them. Although we have detailed knowledge of the dramas, and this is in caps, the dramas are external, they are not internal, but they are indeed members of the party, and they are in privileged quarters, and they are the ones sponsoring these mischief makers, but it will end the way it has started, without any result. The masquerades should have been guided in their dance steps to avoid stripping themselves naked on the stage. In the face of the reckless violation of a subsisting court order, therefore, we are hereby left with no option but to deploy the services of security agencies in the enforcement of the rule of law. The security agencies are duty-bound to enforce the rule of law for contempt of court, and therefore, without our prompting, the actions will be meted accordingly.
Yes, indeed, we've got Dr. Alex Tay Adum here with us. He's a former Attorney General for Benue State. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain, and good morning, viewers.
Quite an interesting scenario playing out within the PDP, and the courts also have a role here. Yeah. But even before, perhaps you could just add all of that. The comments from the acting National Publicity Secretary. Now, it turns out that there's another group which has said they themselves too issued a statement saying certain persons are suspended, they've got an acting chairman, and so it just looks as though a lot of these things may eventually end up in settled in courts one way or the other, which we've seen happen before. How do you see all of these scenarios playing out now?
Yeah, Chamberlain, it's rather very sad that the people who are charged as the custodians of the Constitution of the People's Democratic Party, that is the NWC of the party, are the ones instigating the breach and the violation, the most flagrant violation of the Constitution of the party.
How?
All that has happened in the last 1 week ought not to have happened, because neither of the parties in this controversy is empowered under the Constitution of the party to perform any of the roles of suspending any member of the party. Not Damagun as acting chairman of the party, nor the National Working Committee of the party. Suspension from the party is an executive function.
Executive meaning?
Executive function.
Who would the executive be?
Now, the executive is defined under Section 31 and subsection 32 of the party. And the National Executive Committee of the PDP, and if you have the Constitution of the PDP, I would like you to project it. The National Executive Committee of the party is different from the National Working Committee, which is a microcosm. The Working Committee is the administrative organ of the party. It is just like you have the board of channels, and then you have the management of channels. There are certain functions that are vested directly in the board. Policy issues are decided at the board level, not management. And the managing director of channels cannot purport to suspend a board member of channels. It is not within his powers.
So if that happens, for that particular action,
yes,
why is it that we've not seen those other persons challenged in the court? Why did they issue a counter suspension notice? Are they also right to have done that?
That's why I said neither of the parties. Because if you look at the dry provisions of Article 57, subsection 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, that deals with the issue of discipline in the party, the appropriate body to constitute a disciplinary committee for the PDP is provided under Article 57, sub-Article 1. And that is the National Executive Committee or any other executive committee of the party at any other level. And then there are about 4 levels of the party. you have the National Executive Committee, you have the Zonal Executive Committee, you have the State Executive Committee, you have the Local Government Executive Committee, and then you have the Ward Executive Committee. Now, within the Executive Committee, for the day-to-day administration of the party, the working committee is carved out, made up of elected members who stand in there. And their functions for the National Working Committee, for instance, their functions are provided under Article 29, Sub-Article 1, 2, and 3. And Article 29, Sub-Article 1 says the National Working Committee of the party shall be in charge of the day-to-day administration of the party on behalf of the National Executive Committee. So they are a delegatee.
Let me get this straight. I mean, because you've tried to use a company to illustrate what it is that you're trying to explain.
Yes.
But the PDP has a National Working Committee,
yes.
the NWC. It
yes.
has a National Executive Committee,
yes.
which you say one is like the management and the other is like the board.
Yes.
However, there is also a board of trustees.
Look, the PDP, this is the hierarchy of it. Okay? The ultimate organ of the PDP is the National Convention. That is like in typical company parlance, the annual general meeting of the company. After the National Convention, you have the NEC, which is the board of PDP. The BOT even comes below the NEC because the BOT is an advisory body. It does not have any executive functions. So the executive powers are well articulated in Article 31, Sub-Article 2. Particularly with respect to discipline, you have Article 31, Subsection 2, Sub-Article 2, Paragraph I, which provides that the National Executive Committee shall formulate policies, rules, and regulations for the discipline of all party members, which shall be binding on all organs of the party. The only place where the National Working Committee or any other working committee of the party is mentioned with respect to discipline is in Article 57, Sub-Article 3. And in that particular provision, it says that the National Working Committee or any other working committee of the party can suspend a member, may suspend a member. However, Article 57, Sub-Article 7 says, notwithstanding any other provision of this Constitution, no member of the National Executive Committee no petition, no complaint shall be entertained by any other executive committee, not even working committee of the party, against any member of the National Executive Committee, including the president, an incumbent president who is a member of the party, an incumbent vice president, an incumbent governor, an incumbent deputy governor, an incumbent member of the National Assembly, and so on and so forth. So the members of the National Executive Committee of the party, which are like the board of the party, cannot be dealt with by ordinary structures or organs of the party except the NEC.
Let me get this straight. Are we still talking about the suspension of the spokesperson and the legal advisor?
Of course, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is
are they members of the board?
They are members of NEC. Members of the National Working Committee of the party are also members of the National Executive Committee. They are substantive members of the National Executive Committee. Your managing director is a member of the board. So your management cannot suspend the managing director. So you don't have the powers.
Are you telling us that when people say under the functions of the NWC,
yes,
when they say in case of emergency, they can act on behalf of the National Executive Committee subject to ratification by NEC, they can perform such other function as may be assigned
delegated to them by NEC.
By NEC.
That is Section 29, Article 29, Sub-Article 2. Emergency situations. What is the emergency? Now,
So,
that particular provision, excuse me, sir.
Just a minute. Are you saying for sure that, just a minute, let me ask the question.
Okay.
You will respond to the question. Are you saying for sure that there is no reason whatsoever for the MWC to have done what they've done?
There was no reason at all.
They have not in any way been
because
instructed
any
by
other
NEC?
provision.
So wait, you're saying that there's no communication from NEC to NWC to...
No, none at all. The last NWC...
Are you a member of any working organ of the party?
I am not a member of any organ of the party, but I'm a committed member of the party and a very resourceful member of the party who has been a member of the party since 1998. In the last election, in the two previous elections, in 2019, I was the state coalition officer for the PDP, which returned Governor Otom, and it took my stout defense of the principles of democracy, fairness, justice, and obedience to the rules for the conduct of the election for Otom to be returned as governor in Benue State. In 2023, I was the director of mandate protection for the Presidential Campaign Council. I know the constitution of the party back to back. And I'm telling you that, look, there is a clause in the Constitution, and read it, sir. Go to Article 57, Sub-Article 7, and read Article 59, Sub-Article 3. Tell me, read it, sir. You have it. If you have it, please project it and read it.
What's your point?
It says, notwithstanding any other provision of this Constitution, no member of the Executive Committee, nobody shall entertain any complaint of discipline against any member of the National Executive Committee.
However grievous it is.
However grievous it is.
Okay.
The only privacy there is that the National Working Committee can complain, can lay a complaint to the National Executive Committee, which has the executive powers to decide the merit of such a decision. And in any case, if you look at the provisions of Section 57, Article 57, Sub-Article 6, the procedure for summoning any member for discipline is such a member must be allowed or tried under the principles of fair hearing. And what is fair hearing? You are first informed of the charges against you properly.
Have they not been invited
to
come and defend themselves?
Excuse me, sir. Let me learn. You're first informed. You are afforded the opportunity to defend yourself, either orally or in writing. And if these conditions are not met, any decision arising from that proceeding is a nullity.
So as we speak today...
Excuse me, sir. Let me land on this point.
No, hold on.
I don't want you to derail me on this point. Let me
hang on. So the thing is this, right?
Yeah.
We look at the time.
Yeah.
So we need to come in with those questions.
Yes.
Because we have to factor all of this in within the time.
Yes.
So you don't have all
the time. Yeah, but in 30 seconds I would have landed on that. In 30 seconds. Now, the principles of fair hearing are also such that you cannot be a judge in your own cause. The applicable Latin maxim is nemo judex in causa sua.
Who is the judge in their own cause here?
Damagun and the purported NWC that said we have suspended the National Publicity Secretary and the National Legal Advisor, and we have set up a committee made up of the same NWC members to sit in judgment over a member they have no powers to suspend.
How is Damagu a judge in his own matter? If
the disciplinary committee set up by Damagu.
Let me put in the question.
Yes.
This decision was taken by NWC.
The NWC cannot be a judge in its own cause.
Hold on, let's put in the question so you can answer to it.
Yeah.
You say Damagu. Did Damagu take this decision unilaterally? Did he write this suspension unilaterally?
Damagun is the chief executive of the party.
Did he issue the suspension in his capacity as acting chairman?
Damagun, when I mention Damagun, it is like the symbol of the NWC. He symbolizes the NWC.
No, but that's not the case.
Excuse me, sir.
Just a minute. There's an NWC, and then there's Damagun.
The head of the decision was taken purportedly by the NWC. The letter was issued by the National Secretary Anyanwu of the party. And it was issued on behalf of the NWC. So the NWC cannot sit and constitute a panel to hear the disciplinary allegations against the National Publicity Secretary. That would be against the principles articulated in Article 57, Sub-Article 1 of the party.
Yeah, but they said that this is not a suspension as such.
What?
That's what they have said, that this is a temporary suspension pending when they clear themselves before a disciplinary
committee? What is
committee?
suspension, whether temporary or this thing? And in any case, okay, fine. If that is the logic, is acting chairman, national chairman of PDP.
What did the court say about his position?
The court didn't say anything about his acting
The
position.
recent court judgment.
The recent court judgment was to the effect that the national chairman, not the acting national chairman, there's no reference to anything acting national chairman in the judgment of the court. And in any case, that court decision is superfluous. I have said it. The established principles of law and the jurisprudence of the courts in Nigeria today is that matters of election or removal of party executives are internal affairs of political parties.
In other words?
And in other words, the court does not have any jurisdiction to interfere. And I refer you to this, all the previous line of cases, but particularly the Supreme Court judgment in January in the case of Governor Muftwang of Plateau State versus Nantawe. That was on the only principle upon which the Supreme Court was able to overrule the Court of Appeal on the issue of executives.
When you say the court did not make any reference to acting national
chairman, yes.
When you are in that position,
yes,
it's just designation to call you acting national chairman. You're doing
no.
Hold on a minute. You're carrying out the functions in that office as the man who sits in that office.
Yes.
Now, if the court came up with that judgment,
yes,
are you then saying now that all the prayers, whatever it is that the court decided, cannot be obeyed?
The prayers cannot be obeyed. Like I said, there is a distinction between acting national chairman in the PDP and substantive national chairman. The provisions relating to the substantive national chairman of the party are very well articulated in the party constitution. The question of acting national chairman only appears in section 35, subsection 3C of the PDP constitution.
But you know the person who went to court and their prayers was in support of Damagum.
Sir, I can go to court.
Was it not the case?
Excuse me, sir.
No, was that not the case?
Yes.
Exactly.
Fine.
So go ahead.
I can go to court. China's television is a registered entity. Okay? I can go to court and forget to put China's Television Limited or whatever it is.
A lawyer will forget?
I may forget, or I may willfully, because I did not do my due diligence. And then I will sue China's Television or China's TV. Now, if you go and China's comes to court, China can say the proper party is not before the court. The proper party is not before the court.
When that happens, what will be the decision?
The judgment of the court, for instance.
Will the court go ahead and give a judgment?
Let's assume the court can give a judgment. It can go ahead. The court can decline jurisdiction. But let's assume that the court has given a judgment. If I come to enforce it and China says no, this judgment does not affect China's Television Nigeria Limited, which is the registered entity. My judgment is against China's Television or China's TV. So, I cannot enforce that judgment against China's Television Nigeria Limited.
Are we now going to disobey it because of that?
For what I've told you, that the judgment does not apply.
Yeah, but you're saying it cannot be obeyed.
Why do you obey a judgment that does not apply to you?
What is the procedure?
Sir, for the PDP.
If there's a subsisting...
For the PDP.
Just hold on.
Yes.
If there's a subsisting judgment. Number one is that it's very rare for a lawyer to go to court and say, I forgot to add this. And then they'll argue the matter with the opposing counsel. They'll argue the matter for months, maybe years. And they all still forget and don't remember. And the judge, they'll all sit and, come on. But assuming that all that may even happen.
Even in the last
assuming that may even happen.
Yes.
The other aspect is this. If a judgment has been handed down, can you just sit down and say it cannot be obeyed? Isn't the process to challenge it and vacate it before you do anything? Because if everybody keeps saying, no, we will not obey that, that is taking the law into your hands.
We are not taking the laws into our hands. And the judgment says that Damagum should not be removed, or the chairman should not be removed. Damagum is not the chairman of the PDP.
So who is the chairman?
He is the acting acting national chairman of the PDP.
So
wait a minute,
in
sir.
this case,
wait a minute, sir.
in this case,
Wait a
who
minute,
is
sir.
this judgment referring to?
The judgment is
position?
referring to the position of national chairman.
Who occupies
We do not have a substantive national chairman. We have an acting national chairman. And that acting national chairman cannot benefit from the judgment of the court, which does not refer to him. It is not a judgment in personam. It's a judgment in rem. It says the national chairman of the PDP should not be removed. Damagun is not the national chairman.
So,
in any case, nobody is removing Damagun from the office.
In this case,
Can I land, sir?
just a minute. For this particular judgment,
Yes.
who is it benefiting now?
The judgment is in favor of the national chairman of the PDP,
Who
was elected. If I, for instance,
You haven't answered the question. Who is the national chairman? So they gave the
we don't
judgment
have a national chairman. We have an acting national chairman.
of which this judgment was referring to.
The judgment was referring to the national chairman, not the acting national chairman. I've told you that. We don't need to. You're the one who's wasting too much of my time. I have landed on that.
You don't have a chairman, right?
No.
We don't have a national chairman. We have an acting national chairman.
Okay.
Yes.
So right now, I mean, it's all very confusing because
It's not confusing.
Let me put this like this,
Yeah.
because it's like when you say, "Oh, we have an acting president." Now we had an acting president once
Yes.
when well, we do have.
We always had an acting president.
Sometimes when the president is around or is away, and then he hands over power to the vice president, you can say, "Okay, that's acting president." But in the instance, for instance, when we had the situation with President Yar'Adua, where a doctrine of necessity.
Why don't you even bring it down to Buhari and?
No. Let me go to when the doctrine of necessity was declared. When the constitution, when our senators and Nigerian Parliament was unsure of whether he was alive or dead.
Yes.
You know, and they were waiting for that confirmation, and he had to be sworn in. In that time, when he was acting president, when there was no other option until it was later on confirmed that, the president had passed. Would we have said that we don't have a president?
We had an acting president.
Yes.
When the need arose for him to be made president, he was sworn in as president immediately upon the demise of Shehu Umar Yar'Adua.
Yes, but what does an acting president then do? The person who is acting.
An acting president is not a substantive president. He's just a stopgap arrangement.
What does he do? What are the functions?
He performs the functions of the office, but he does not have the title.
So it's a titular problem.
It's a titular problem.
Well, let me read out.
It's not just a question of semantics. It is directly, because if you look at it in the PDP constitution, the idea of an acting national chairman is not a succession arrangement in the PDP. The succession arrangement in the PDP for any vacancy in any office of the National Executive Committee or any other executive committee of the PDP is provided for under Article 47, sub-Article 6.
Which says
that the appropriate executive committee at any level where a vacancy occurs shall appoint another replacement from the zone where the executive officer of the party who has resigned or has been removed or who has been incapacitated comes from.
Let me read out
in respect to Article 35, sub-Article 3C, it says because there are two deputy national chairmen of the party.
Well,
priority should be given to the one from the part of the country, part and region, not even zone.
Okay, let's not go too far back in history. Let's even assume that you accept that, Mr. Damagum is the acting chairman.
Yes.
Now a judgment comes, it benefits the chairman, you say?
Yes.
You don't have an acting chairman.
We don't have a national chairman, we have an acting national chairman.
You don't have a national chairman.
Yes.
So if something were to come and it was supposed to be the function of the chairman to perform, you'll say, acting national chairman, you cannot perform it because you're not the substantive, titular chairman of the party. Is that what you're going to say?
Those are administrative functions. He can perform the administrative functions because in the party constitution...
He can perform it, but he cannot take the benefits. He can only perform functions.
He can't take the legal position, the legal character
Even though you do not have a substantive chairman.
We don't have a substantive national chairman. And like I said, because you're not allowing me to land on this point.
We don't have all the time,
the
unfortunately.
PDP is not removing Damagun from office. Damagun's substantive position in the PDP is deputy national chairman, not.
Okay, let me
all we are asking him to do is revert to your position and allow the operation of Section 47, subsection 6.
Let me read part of this before we go on this. You know, so Justice Lifu's of the Federal High Court decision.
Yes.
So part of it was when, you know, the plaintiff, you know, through his lawyer, Joshua Musa SAN, their prayer to the court was to invoke Article 45, 47, and 67 of the PDP Constitution to stop the move to replace Damagun as acting national chairman. A specific prayer. And so he also specifically asked the court to declare that the national chairmanship of the PDP is rotated between the North and South regions and not through any other procedure not enshrined in the Constitution. So the decision went on to say that they can only be removed through the convention. So the court in that judgment barred PDP, NEC, and BOT from removing Damagun as the chairman. And he held, just a minute, he held that in line with Article 42, 47, and 47 of the PDP, officers can only be elected at the national convention of the party. This is the decision
with due respect to my lord, his interpretation of the PDP constitution is erroneous. So it is Pincurium. Excuse me. I said with due respect to him, because I'm a member of the PDP.
I know we need to go.
Now, under Section 67, subsection 1, that my lord referenced, the appropriate regions that are mentioned, zones that are mentioned in the PDP constitution, check Article 67, sub-article 1, paragraph M rather. It says north, west, northeast, north-south, north-central, south-south, southwest, southeast. The issue of northern and southern region are not in any way articulated in Section 67.
Dr. Alex Adom, we need to go. But the thing about this is this is a subsisting judgment. Yes, you have your legal opinion, but you're not the court. So if you disagree with it, you have to challenge it in the courts.
The higher courts have said no lower court should even entertain any internal affair of a political party. We have a Supreme Court judgment. So is Lifu can override the Supreme Court.
Dr. Adom,
we are obliged to obey him. He is not obliged to obey the precedent set by the Supreme Court, by the Court of Appeal.
If this has not been challenged to be dismissed, this is the subsisting judgment. That is the subsisting judgment.
Is the judgment of the higher court. That is the Supreme Court,
not the judgment of the lower court. Of Benue State, Dr. Alex Adom, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. Thank you very much.
Okay, let's take a look at some messages coming through from here. This is from Kola Fatokun. He says this is about CAF. Okay, Kola. He says, eagerly awaiting the results of CAF's investigation. Libya is known for repeating this callous and shameful behavior. Okay. That's another one.
Well, I see quite a lot of them. This is from Professor Nakina. Says, fiscal and forex policies must be returned to make the single-digit loans by BOI and Afrexim available to those involved in commercial agriculture and other SMEs in the informal sector. While we implement this policy, we must improve power generation, transmission, and distribution to cut cost of production, and this will create a competition between goods produced locally and those imported. I see quite a number of feedback from, this is a mail from Mr. Olarewaju Osho. It's pretty long. I think it was an interview we had yesterday with Mr. Gabriel Suswam, and then quite a number of other. Look at this one from Kine Kenneth. Kine Kenneth says, Nigeria's major economic challenges are underinvestment and I want to believe he means ineffective management. Now, President Tinubu should bring to the table an economic plan that would utilize the vast natural resources available through strategic investment in infrastructure, which will lead to the diversification of the economy and wealth creation across the entire country. That's from Kenny Kenneth.
Okay, well, thank you all for your messages. We'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, have a very lovely day. I'm Chamberlain Yusuf. Goodbye.
Thank you. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.